more applications. Okay, so this is literally exactly the same thing that we just did.
Except it's not negative.
But now we're working with double negatives. Just kidding. Okay, so the sum of two non-negative numbers, which some of you have noticed is, yep, positive. So the sum of two positive numbers is 30. Find both numbers if the sum of twice the first plus the square of the second is a max. That sounded awesome, right? Absolutely. No, this is different. This is going to be like when you're counting your kids or something. Figuring out their ages. Just two. There's only two kids. Two non-negative kids. All right, so the sum of two numbers. Let's start with the sum of two numbers. How do you write a sentence for that? Okay, so we need two numbers. Let's call them X and Y. Okay, so Mike's kids are X and Y. Perfect. That's what I would probably call them. All right, so now it says, okay, so find the sum. Okay, so let's first say, okay, we're adding some stuff. We need a letter to represent the sum. S. So S, wow, my bad. Wow, okay. Don't touch it. S equals, okay, the sum of twice the first. So how do you say twice the first?
2x.
2x plus the square of the second. So what is the square of the second? Y squared. See, that wasn't so bad. When you slow it down, it makes it very simple. All right, so same thing as last time. I need to isolate a variable. Would you like to isolate the x or the y on my first equation? X. All right, so would you agree that x is equal to 30 minus y?
I would agree with that, yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to take that, I'm going to plug it into my sum equation. So we're going to have 2 times 30 minus y plus y squared. And I'm going to choose to expand this so that it's in standard form before I derive it. It'll make things a little easier. So 2 times 30 is 60 minus 2y plus y squared. So now here comes the part where I derive. So my derivative will be negative 2 plus 2y, or whatever you said, that also works. Okay, so then to find my critical value, I'm going to set that equal to 0 and isolate my y. So what would you do to isolate the y? Add 2. And would you all agree that my y value is 1? So therefore, if I go back to my x value is 29. Okay, so we do want to check this. So what I want to do is make sure, off of my sum equation. Okay, so I have this in terms of x and y, right? Okay, so if I have my, let me think here, how's this going? S of 0, because 0 would be the smallest possible number that we could use, right? 0 is non-negative, and my biggest possible non-zero number is, so if I add two numbers together, and it has to equal 30, my biggest would have to be 30, right?
Right.
Okay, so I could have my x value being 0, okay, which would imply my y value is 30. So I could have 0 and 30, so my smaller one is 0, my bigger one is 30. So in that case, I would have 2 times 0 plus 30 squared
All freshmen with the last name starting with N as in November, head downstairs to right next to the gym. Thank you.
So, anybody know what 30 squared is? 900. Okay, I could have the scenario where my x is 29, right? So if my x is 29, my y is 1. So that would be 2 times 29 plus 1 squared. So what's 2 times 29? 58. 58 plus 1. So that total would be 59. So that's less than if it was 0 and 30.
Right.
Okay, we could go the other way where my x is 1, so then what would my y be? 29. So if I go 2 times 1 plus 29 squared. Okay, what's 29 squared? I don't know what that is. 841. So that sum was 843. Okay, my last possible scenario would be if my x was 30, my y would be 0. So that would be 2 times 30. Because you got 29 and 1 from the calculus, but you could still use 0 and 30. So you got to check all of them. Plus 0. Well, I have a 90 right there. 900, guys. So, which one gave me my maximum sum? The first one. Okay, so what is my first number? So my first number, is 0, and my second number is 30. Okay, so
Why can't we just do this side part without doing all those?
why can't we do the calculus part?
No, why can't we just do not the calculus part?
Because you don't know what numbers.
Oh, yeah, because the calculus part might create bigger values. So like your min and your lowest possible scenario and your biggest might not always create the largest. Like if the question would have been what is the lowest sum?
Yeah.
We would have used this second scenario where your x value is 29. And that would come from the calculus. So the difference in this is that you have to check your minimum possible values and your max and your calculus values. Okay.
Only if it's asking for the maximum, right?
No, you have to check it with the min.
Wait. So you do like the minimum it could be and the maximum it could be, and then what you get
From your calculus, yep. Yep. Yeah, so do you guys want to maybe do number 1 off the assignment together?
No.
Let me just erase this last one. Yeah, number 1 of the assignment.
Alright.
You guys want to do it together? Seems like there's a little confusion. Okay. Everybody with me? Ready? Okay, so the first sentence says we have a product of 2 positive numbers and it's equal to 300. So what is my first sentence?
X was Y.
Close. Product.
Oh,
X times Y equals 300. Okay, the second sentence says find the sum so that find the two numbers so that the sum of the first plus 3 times the second is as small as possible. Okay, so my second equation is a sum. Okay, so it says the first plus, so my first, let's call my first x, plus 3 times the second. So how do you say 3 times the second? 3y. Perfect. Okay. So those are my two pieces that I have. So which variable would you like to isolate? X. Y? All right, y. 300 divided by x. Yeah, it will turn out to the same thing. So if I replace my y with 3 times 300 over x.
Freshman with the last name starting with O as in Oscar, head downstairs. Thank you.
O as in India.
Okay, so I simplified it. Now it's ready for the calculus piece. Okay, so the derivative of x is 1. Thanks. Derivative of 900x to the negative first is negative 900x to the negative 2. So if I add that 900 to the other side, it's 900 over x squared equals 1. Okay, so if I get my x squared out of the bottom, I'm going to multiply to the other side. And I lost my pen. Okay. And so we take a square root. So the square root of 900 is 30. So my x value is 30. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and do what is my y value, and then we'll check them. So if we have, okay, well, I only got one number, so I'm gonna test it anyways against it. Positive and positive. 300. Yeah, you do get positive and positive. So let's just test it against the original function, and then probably it's not going to be either of it. So if I do that, my y value is what? 10. Okay, so if we test it and do, what is the smallest possible x value that you could have? So if they're both positive numbers and we have to multiply to 300, what is the lowest possible x value you would have? 1. So it can be 1 and 300, right? So if my x is 1, my y would be 300. So I have 1 plus 3 times 300. Okay, so that would make, dang it. Yeah, 901. Okay. I can go, let's just flip that really fast and say if my x is 300, then my y would be, jeez Louise, there's some issues here. Then my y would be 1, right? Okay, so that would make 303. Okay, now we're going to use the critical values that we just found from the calculus. So if my x is 30, my y is 10, so that would be 30 plus 3 times 10. So 30 plus 30, right, is 60. Okay, and then if I flip those numbers and say I could also have my x equal 10, and then my y could be 30, right?
Right.
So 3 times 30, that gives me 10 plus 90? 100. Okay, so we're trying to find the one that makes the smallest sum. So which one makes the smallest sum? This one, yeah. So smallest, when the smaller number, or I guess it doesn't matter.
Yo! Thanks.
Smallest, I'm just going to say when x equals 30, y equals 10. That's good. Does that kind of make sense? A little bit more? Yep, you know what the homework is.